This is amazing. Hi, welcome back on this channel. Today, you guessed it, we're going to talk about the 18-300mm for Fujifilm X system. This little guy here is an amazing lens that surprised me in many ways. This was released on October 21st, 2021, and it is an equivalent to 27-450mm on full frame. This is available in two versions, Fujifilm and Sony. Today we're going to talk about the Fuji version, obviously. I want to first get out of the way the only con that I found about this lens, and that is the fact that the variable aperture is 3.5 to 6.3. This is a con, yes and no, because you'll see the results, they are pretty damn good. It is also a zoom lens, so I'm not asking from Tamron to add more stops and a wider aperture because it is not big. I mean, look, this is the size of it in my hand. You see, I can hold it pretty easily, pretty comfortably. But I can imagine if you would add another stop or a wider aperture, it could tend to become a little bit big, a little bit heavy. So I understand. Now that this is out of the way, little disclaimer, I did get this lens for free. I gotta keep it, but everything that I'm gonna say is my own opinion and nobody has a say on that. It is great for autofocusing. In fact, it has two VXD linear motors. For those that don't know, VXD means voice coil extreme torque drive. Okay, that is a mouthful. But what this means basically is that the lens is gonna be very fast, very silent, and it's gonna focus great. The thing is, as long as you have a great lighting and you have enough light, the focus is gonna be quick, snappy, and it's gonna work just great. I did do some tests in lower light situation and the focus tends to haunt a little bit and have a little bit of a hard time. This lens is weather sealed or weather resistant, which means that you can go in dusty and or humid environments and nothing's gonna happen as long as you pair it with, let's say, an XT or an X Pro that are also weather sealed. You can use them together and you're not gonna have any problem. This is very welcome for such a price point. When you're shooting at 18mm wide, the minimum object distance, MOD, becomes 0.15 meters, which is basically nothing. You can get, literally you could touch with your lens, it happened many times, you can touch with the front element the object you're trying to take a photo of and still have the object and everything around it, which basically becomes a macro lens. And you have a maximum magnification ratio of 1/2. This is absolutely insane. Like, on top of everything this lens does, you can also use it to shoot macro. As you can see here, it has a vibration compensation, VC, which is the word that Tamron uses to say optically stabilized. So if you're shooting with a body, for example, an X-T3 that doesn't have IBIS, this is absolutely great to have. In fact, here's a little video that I shot. So you can see when I zoom on the trees, there is some movements a little bit, but imagine I'm shooting this with a body that doesn't have IBIS and I'm shooting this handheld. So if you would put this on a gimbal or on a tripod, you would have zero vibrations and zero movements. I wanted to see how this lens compares in terms of sharpness, in terms of depth of field, if I shoot at different focal lengths and at different apertures. In fact, what I did is I tried to emulate the focal length of my different prime lenses. For example, I used the 90, I used the 18, 56, and 23. I use the same aperture using these lenses and using the Tamron lens. And this is the result. As you could see, these are very similar. The only one that was a little bit different because of the compression is the 90mm. When I opened it at f5, the bokeh or the background was way more blurry than the Tamron at the same aperture and the same focal length. This lens has a zoom lock, which is right here. What this will do is it will avoid your lens moving whenever you're traveling or whenever you don't want to have the zoom coming out. The reason being that this is made of plastic and it can be delicate. You don't want to break it. In terms of optical construction, it has 19 elements in 15 groups. The diameter is 67 mm. The length is 126 millimeters. The weight, 620 grams, which is the same as the Sony version. And the minimum aperture goes from f/22 to f/40. They give you a little lens hood, which is made of plastic, and that's fine. It's great to have. In terms of price, we are at around $700. And to be honest, that is great. For what you're getting, I mean, 18 to 300, guys, you can't really ask for more than that. Build quality wise, this Tamron lens is much better than the Fuji 70 to 300. I usually don't say this about Fuji lenses, but in this case, I really found the 70 to 300 very plasticky and almost cheapo feeling. Like you really feel that it's made of plastic. In fact, you can check my review up here where I talk about this lens. This one has this matte feel, this matte look, and while it is made of plastic, it feels more sturdy. I don't know how to explain it, but it does feel like it's not gonna break tomorrow. The hood says made in China. The lens says designed in Japan, and it says made in Vietnam. The really cool thing about this lens is that there's no other lens in the lineup, in the Fuji lineup, that covers from 18 to 300. And it is so versatile, like you can literally go out for a whole day and shoot with only one lens. Now, why would you use this lens over a prime lens? Well, I'm gonna tell you. I think this lens was designed for those that want to have only one lens with them, that wanna go around with a light setup, and that only have, for example, one body. So you're only gonna shoot with one Fujifilm camera, for example, and you don't wanna bring with you different focal length. Even though you can use your legs to move around, but if you're someone who likes to have a zoom lens with you as well as a wider focal length, everything is included in this package. I think this is also a great lens for those that are starting in Fujifilm photography or those that are just starting with photography and that want to have an all-around lens to find which focal length they're the most comfortable with, so that later on you can maybe buy a prime lens for that focal length. Who I think this lens is not for is people who travel, who are trying to travel lightweight and that don't need to have such a wide range of focal length. For example, if someone who travels or someone who does street photography, maybe you will want to use 23mm, for example, rather than having this heavy zoom. Because yes, it's light for what it does, but it's still quite heavy. In fact, if I compare it to, for example, my 23 here, f2, you see the size. I mean, it's a no-brainer. If you want to travel very lightweight, you will use something smaller. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about this lens. Is this a lens you would buy or you would consider buying? For what reason? And consider subscribing because it helps me, but it also helps you staying up to date with my latest and greatest videos. See you soon, keep shooting, keep smiling, and take care.